Welcome to Make Your Own Fun. I am here with Bridget McGuinness, and she is a filmmaker and actress, and I'm sure many other things.
Yes, many hats.
I wanted to kind of kick this off and talk about one of your short films that I saw online called Release.
Oh yeah, thank you.
I got more out of it than I really thought because for something super short, I guess it's about 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Yes.
And I gotta say, I was really riveted.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I appreciate that so much.
I won't ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but yeah, the subject matter is really difficult, and I have to say you're pretty brave for kind of tackling stuff like that. And I think it's important, not just to address it, but also I think it's a good conversation piece too.
Yes.
And as a guy, straight guy, I know that I've probably been that, I don't want to say it, but I've probably been that douchebag guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also been on the other side of it where someone is passive aggressive and you don't really think that they are until you've been in the relationship for a while and you're like, why do I feel so shitty with this person that I'm supposed to look forward to seeing and spending time with,
Yep, exactly.
So I don't know, I hate to ask, like, what was the impetus of that? Was it based on something that actually happened, or?
Yes, so it is based on a relationship that I had previously. It's definitely not everything. I wrote it over COVID and got a very small group together, basically my fellow actor in it, who's a friend, my friend Chris, and then 2 friends to help me direct it and do the sound. So small group, 4 of us, but we obviously made something that it does resonate with a lot of people, and it was very personal to me. It was difficult to share, but like you said, it's an important conversation and everyone has dealt with it in many forms.
And I think there's a funny side note in there somewhere, which I'm also a writer and an actor, and I'm always kind of curious when someone approaches somebody with material and to say, like, I'm thinking of you for this, and I'm wondering what your fellow actor thought when you gave him the script and you were like, you're perfect for this, and he was like, whoa, oh Jesus.
Yes, exactly. Well, the funny thing is my friend Chris, he's not an actor.
Oh.
I believe he's never acted before. Maybe he did some like high school theater, I'm not sure.
Awesome.
But it was his first time acting, and I think he was such a close friend that I felt safe doing it with him. And I probably saw deep down that he should be an actor. That's probably also why, because he did so good. I think he was more nervous of like his performance, memorizing the lines, but a lot of it was also improv too, a little bit.
Yeah, and I kind of gauged that a little bit. I kind of felt like, well, there was like the easygoing chemistry, and I really bought into it that you guys were just gonna have a day at the beach and all that. Was that shot here in LA or back on the East Coast?
I was back on the East Coast, my hometown of Nantucket, Massachusetts.
Nice.
So yeah.
Which is a great segue into the next phase of questions, which is how long ago did you make the move out west?
I think now it's about a year and a half. Yeah, I think that's roughly about what it's been.
And was the impetus of that just to break into LA or a job or something like that waiting out here?
Honestly, it's such a funny story. So I gave up acting for a little bit. And then when I wrote Release, it ignited it again. I was like, I miss it. That's actually what I want to do. I don't want to really go down a traditional safe job path. So I had a friend who had an empty apartment here in LA, and she offered it to me while I just figured everything out. And I know no one can be that lucky, but I was fortunate enough to have that happen. And then, yeah, then I got the job I have now, which is amazing. And yeah, just trying to do as much acting and auditioning when I can. So
That's awesome. I mean,
yeah.
it literally sounds like you wrote your way in.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. It's like it happened really smoothly, which is kind of strange. Because I feel like that's not everyone's experience.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. It does happen, but I don't know. I guess the next couple of questions I was going to ask, I don't know if I can now because I love asking people, when they come in from out of town, because I'm from out of town originally too, and I always love hearing this, not horror stories, but the stories about like so and so said I should go check out this talent agency, and it's like run out of the back of a karate dojo, and they don't really look at your headshot and your special skills, and they're just like, yeah, but can you twirl a sign?
Yeah,
like,
right.
What is this, a commercial audition? They're like, sure, kid.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I, knock on wood, have been fortunate enough to not have any of those types of stories. But yeah, I know. Every day I talk to fellow actors and producers and writers, and they're just like telling me these stories. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that is so scary and stressful. And no.
Well, let's hop back in the Wayback Machine and go back even further, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess when you were a kid, was there like a show or a movie or a play that you saw something? You could have been by yourself or with your friends or your family, and you said, "Oh, I want to do that."
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think, as a kid, I always just loved performing for my family, singing and being obnoxious, pretty much. I didn't realize how obnoxious I was till I watched a home video when I think I was like 7 in the video, and I was like, wow, I was really annoying. Like, how did you guys
Oh, were you one of those
deal with
kids
me?
that like anytime, like not like a phone, but like anytime somebody had like a camera and they were like, "Do, do, 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 do," and they were all like,
I was like, yeah, exactly.
and they were like,
yeah.
can you turn it down from like 25 to like a 9?
Yep. Or I would take the camera and document my life that I had when I was like 7.
It's so funny to look back at old videos too. I always think this is hilarious. And it's either like they're so like kids are so excited to just show off their room, or
Yeah, that's a video.
or they're like the other kids that like will take the camera out into like the driveway into the street, and they're like super serious, like investigative reporter type.
Yeah.
And they have the camera like this, and they're just like on these quiet streets. I'm like, who? What are they watching? Like a current affair or something where they have the collar turned up, and they're just like in these quiet houses, there was an evil lurking. And then like you just look over, and then there's like a neighbor like 2 yards away that's like raking leaves on a Sunday afternoon. She's just like,
what is that kid doing? Yeah. Yeah, don't film me.
She's got like her hat on, she's like pouring sweat and just like,
yep.
what are you doing? Stop it. And she's like, suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was me when I was a kid for sure. But I think it's so funny, I can't like pinpoint a specific like movie or show. I grew up a lot watching like the Disney movies, like, so growing up, especially when I was little, the Nantucket, obviously people know, is an island, and it didn't have many TV stations. So I grew up a lot on VHS tapes that my parents would have. So a lot of it was Disney because age appropriate. But yeah, I think I just deep down just always loved performing and playing different characters and making people laugh. And yeah, I think by the time I was 10, I knew I wanted to be an actor professionally. Cool. Yeah.
I have to ask, so Nantucket Island is close to Martha's Vineyard, right?
Yes.
So they have, and correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't been to the Massachusetts or Boston area in like 15 years, but do they do like an annual like Jaws celebration for filming?
I think the Vineyard does.
I mean, I think maybe it's just like in the summertime, maybe they just like on the beach have like an inflatable screen. And I did that once. I went to I took my daughter to Dana Point, and they had a screen like right by the ocean, and so you could hear the waves. And
That's
I was
amazing.
like, "This is amazing!" And she was just
Oh
like
no.
she was like 8 at the time, and I thought this is gonna freak her out.
Yep.
And she was just like, "You don't really see the shark." And I'm like, "What's the matter?" And at the end, she was like, "I was kind of rooting for the shark." I'm like,
Wait, I love that.
um,
Like if you really like dissect that movie, she makes sense. Possibly.
that's a great movie.
It is.
So you came to LA and you
Mhm.
started to well, what was kind of like the first few gigs, if you can remember, were they like commercials or infomercials or stage things?
Yeah, I one of the first gigs I got here was a taco commercial. Uh,
Awesome.
for this like online business called Taco Tuesday, and it's pretty much every location in I think Southern California where you can get amazing tacos. So I had to go to I think it was like Laguna Beach to shoot it, and it was so much fun though. Like I just spent the whole day eating tacos over and over. So I
Getting
couldn't
paid for it, yeah.
exactly. I couldn't eat tacos for a while after that, to be honest.
They're
But
like, I will eat the shit out of these tacos, but eight
yeah,
hours later and a bathroom probably later,
yeah.
you're like, I'm
Well, you don't
good.
finish a whole taco. That's what I also learned. Is like they have a tarp on the floor because they were like, just go for it. And I was like, okay, because I will
Oh
if you want me
wow.
to. And they're like, yeah. So I went for it, but I wouldn't like eat the whole. It was like half a taco, and then they would give me a whole one. Then it was like another, like a couple bites, and then another. And I was like, oh my
Oh
god.
yeah, that reminds me. Like when I lived in Ohio, we did a McDonald's commercial, and it was so ridiculous. It was filmed in a horse stable, so they were
Oh
like
wow.
people kind of getting ready to take horses like out to the racetrack. It was like building up to like when they come out of the gate. But the beginning
Okay.
of it is like the I don't know, handlers or ranch hands or,
Hmm.
and it's just like that generic thing of just like it'll make this, morning perfect, like McDonald's or whatever. And,
Yes.
but that was a long time ago. So at first I was like, it's cold, it's early, like, eating McDonald's will be great. And then after
Mhm.
like the 14th take, and they do all the turnarounds and
Yep.
close-ups and long shots, walking, sitting, laughing, and you always have to have the fresh breakfast where the steam comes out. And so
Yep.
you take a bite, and then it was so horrible because I remember this one girl, they were like, that was a great one. Now, if we could get you to do the joyous bite from the fresh sandwich. And the girl was like, I, but I, and then she was like, there were 7 of them on the table.
Yeah.
Like, honey, we don't see the table. We don't know which one you're picking up. Just, we will hand you the fresh one. And she was like, okay. But then they would cut
Yeah.
back, and all of a sudden she was like, Meryl Streep. She was like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Just bring it back in.
Well, but I mean, it
Nice.
was crazy because it was like they also shot like another version of it with like I guess you call it lunch stuff, and it was
Okay.
like I couldn't eat McDonald's for like months because all
Yep.
I could smell, and it was like in my hands like French fries. And they,
Hmm.
like you said, they had like this like wheelbarrow or like some kind of trough
Yeah.
device, and they're like, and you just take them and you throw them and go, "Puh," and then they bring
Yep.
you a fresh one. And after like the 4th or 5th one, you were just like, "These are the best fries I've ever had." I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah, exactly. I know. And the taco commercial too is also like ASMR. So I had to make sure that like the crunch, and then we had like fake margaritas, which I wish were real at the moment in the commercial.
right?
So it was like slurping and like, yeah, it was along with the acting and making it look like I mean, I was enjoying it, but also just like making it look like I'm enjoying it. I then had to think like, oh, I'm doing ASMR. I need to like over dramatize my sounds.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing like even. Can you imagine going back into a sound booth and doing like ADR for that
No,
and being like
not at
getting
all.
that taco and you have to be like.
Exactly. I was like, oh my God. I was like, every crunch, I was making sure I was hitting it.
I know, but like it's so funny with commercials too because number one, the food never really looks that good in real life.
Mm-hmm.
The lighting is never that good in real life.
Yeah, exactly. I know when I saw the final product, I was like, this is amazing.
You were like, this is the most orgasmic taco anyone on planet Earth has ever had. People
Exactly.
are just like, I must have that taco. And it's sad
Yep.
too, because you know that like when they do the zoom in on the plate, it's like painted.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, it never looks that good.
Exactly.
So what other some of the early stuff I mean, what stage stuff, or I'm actually kind of curious if you have any funny audition stories.
Oh, that's a good question. Audition
They can
stories.
be horrifically funny, like
Yeah,
something awful happened, because that's usually like when it's something
the
good
best
happens and you
stories.
book the gig, people are like, okay.
Yeah, right.
But like
Exactly.
when you call your friend when you get home and you're like, you will not fucking believe what just happened.
Yeah. I think for when I was in high school, I was taking acting classes in Boston, and I had to do, I think it was like a Mountain Dew commercial. And again, like we were just talking about the constant drinking of it. I think at one point I was drinking too fast. I mean, I was like in high school, so I also had no idea what I was doing at the time. And I swear, I think I like drank too fast, and then the bubbles.
The carbonation.
Yep.
Oh,
And I just remember just being like, and during the audition, and they were like, huh, and I was like,
you're like, but I love your product.
sorry. Yeah, I was like, it's so good. The carbonation is
It's
great.
so
Yeah, exactly.
Have you seen that movie Role Models with Paul Rudd and Sean William Scott,
Yes.
where he's the energy drink spokesman?
Yes.
And all they just have that pre-recorded thing in Sean William Scott where he's like Minotaur, and then he's
Yeah.
every time he's in front of a crowd, he's got to pop one and take a drink, and they
Yep.
show that I don't know, furry truck or whatever they're driving around in, and they just have all those empty cans. And I mean, I just felt for him because I've done stuff like that too, where it's like, what are you like? By the time like you get to the seventh or eighth like can that you're opening and sipping,
Yeah.
do you even taste anything anymore? Like
Exactly.
your tongue is just burning.
Yep. Exactly. And it's so funny. I feel like people don't realize that sometimes when it comes to either scenes or commercials, that it's like sadly it isn't one take that happens in.
Right.
I wish. I try to make it happen, but it never happens.
They're like, that's great, but wait for the little red light, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I was ready.
We said action, we said traction, but it's all the same.
Exactly. But yeah, that was rough. I remember because my dad would bring me, because I was like 16 or 17. So I remember going out of the room, and my parents know nothing about acting. They just retired from teaching. They're fully supportive, but they're like, we don't know anything about this business, so good luck. So I loved when they would come with me to like auditions and stuff, and I come out and like, oh, I did not get that. And they were like, really, what happened? And I like told them, and they're like, next time, or like, you never know. And I'm like, no, I know.
Oh, I love getting I don't so much happen anymore, but oh man, when I would go back, I haven't been back to Ohio for a while, but go back and visit, and there's always that friend or relative that gives you the unsolicited
Yep.
entertainment industry advice, and they have never done it themselves.
Yep.
Oh my God. Like this one guy I used to work with, oh my God. One time he was like, you know, Eric, what you really need to do is like hook up with that guy in New Zealand. I think his name was like Peter Jackson. And he makes like these big movies. And you should just
Pretty
like
big.
find out where his office is and go in there and be like, throw down your resume and headshot and be like, hire me, motherfucker. And I was like,
right. That's how it works.
I will
Exactly.
do none of that ever. I don't even live in the same country as him.
Right.
It is a vast ocean, and they're like, he's like, sounds like a personal problem. Like, if you just find a way, I'm like, what am I gonna fucking make a canoe and just go out
just
to
go.
New Zealand and be like, you have no idea what I did to get here.
Yeah, it's like it's that easy.
So you've got to have friends and family back east that are just like, Bridget, what you need to do is this.
Yep. Oh yeah. especially a lot of my friends too. Like I had a friend visit me, and I know she is coming from a sweet place, but I was like, I had like a photo shoot with this photographer who had a connection to someone who was on like an HBO show. And I was like, okay, how do I play this? How do I, continue this connection? The photographer was so sweet, but how do I try to gently bring up the fact that like, oh, does your friend want to like grab coffee or like all that stuff? And my friend who was visiting me, she was like, just text them and just ask them. I'm like, sadly, it is a song and dance. Like you can't just come right out and be like, okay, give your friend my number, get me on an HBO show.
Misinformation where they don't understand that you can't just do that.
Or I can't walk into, CIA and be like, hey, here's my headshot.
One of my friends, Becky, she at least, it was still like uncouth that you would ever do this, but she was like, well, you've done like background acting on the big movies, right? Like Warner Brothers, to just go right up and be like, hey, Al Pacino, I'll be your personal assistant and I will blow your socks off. And they're, you know what would happen? They would escort you off the lot. And then she was like, well, maybe you're just not trying too hard. Like
no.
Well, yeah, I'm trying too hard over there being human furniture. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah.
Did you ever do background work?
Oh yeah, a lot.
I would not recommend. I would recommend it to kind of get the lay of the land of where the studios are and the production companies. But 2-3 years of that is like anything more than that, you're a glutton for punishment. But hopefully what you did the same thing is during the meal times, that is like networking central.
Mm-hmm.
So after a while, I was like, this is going nowhere. Like, I don't want to just be expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be that guy in the background in the corn dog and a long shot in a baseball game. Like, look, Mom, it's me. I'm one over there that on left field with those other 8,000 people. And like, woo. But finding out who's working making a short film, finding out who's going to play or a showcase, or they're going to make a slasher film up in the woods or something. At least hopefully it's a film.
Yeah, exactly. I know my favorite background story. It's probably the worst background situation I've ever been in, but I did background work in an episode of Chicago Fire. I don't know why they somehow contacted me and I like got to go to Chicago, which was really fun, just for background work. So I don't know how that happened, but I go and I have to be on set at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and we were filming. It was supposed to be an apartment building that a helicopter crashes into. And the building we were filming though was abandoned. So we're sitting in there and there's like wires hanging. Like it was not a safe environment to be like hanging out in. And then it also decides to rain that day. And we're filming, and I remember just downpouring, and all the main actors get to like hang out in like the fire trucks or the ambulance, and they're just drawing, waiting for the camera to reset. And we're just standing there like, okay, I gotta look scared, but I'm also freezing, and like I need to be upset that my apartment building has a helicopter on top of it. And it was just crazy. And then I remember like going back into the building, and hair and makeup is using blow dryers to like dry me off as much as possible. And I'm just like, yeah, this is great. This is so much fun. That was one of the last background acting I did.
Yeah, I haven't told this one in a while, but years ago, do you remember the show Lie to Me, the Tim Roth?
Yeah, I loved that show.
So I was with Central Casting at the time, and I got called, and they have like your headshot on file, and your body type, and they have what your skills are, what you can do and can't do.
Right.
He called me, I don't know, it was like 2:00 in the afternoon or something. And they were like, okay, we're going to need you to go up north. I don't remember the name of the theme park, but it was like in the desert, way north on the 5. I can't remember.
Okay.
And we're going to be shooting this military installation base. And you're going to be in the desert. And you're going to be undercover Taliban. And I was like, and I almost shot myself in the foot right there. I was like, no one would ever think that you have a picture, right? Like, I don't want to talk myself out of a job, but like somebody else that can pass for actually living in Afghanistan, like they should get that gig, not me. And they're like,
Yeah.
no, but you got the skills, and like they need people that can improv and like work a weapon. And I was like looking at my
Yeah. You're like, do you have the same resume
I
as
don't
me?
never used an M16. I'm like, what? And they're like, can you be here tomorrow by 11 a.m.? I'm like, yeah, you're paying SAG wage. I'll be there, sure. And I go up there, and during the scene where Tim Roth comes in on a Jeep because he's interrogating somebody, they fly his character in to interrogate. He's walking around, and because he's like a producer on the show, right? And he's walking around and he sees me, and he calls over like I think the AD, and then the guy's like, "You over there on the tire stack, come over here." And I was like, and this is where my dreams die. I was thinking it was going to be so horrible. And he comes over and he goes, and then Tim Roth does that thing where that classic thing where he's like looking at you, but he's like standing on the side like that. Like, I don't know why he always does that.
Yeah.
He's talking to the AD and he goes, no one's going to bloody believe that Casper the Friendly Ghost is a fucking undercover Taliban agent in Afghanistan. He goes, props to you, mate. I mean, I know it's at work and all that. And I was like,
I tried to tell them.
And then finally the AD's like, well, we're already shooting. We've been shooting for like 4 hours. And he's like, and they were trying to be so delicate about it, but they're like, can you at least fucking dirty him up a little bit? Because he doesn't even look like he's been in the sun.
Oh my
God. So they take me into a tent and they just like rip off my shirt, and they have like 3 or 4 makeup people, and basically making it look like I came out of a coal mine or something. And they put on like what I call, you've seen Team America, right?
Yeah.
I called it the pube beard. They just put that on me, and I was like,
oh yeah.
And the wig and everything, and then they were like deeper focus, and they were like, don't worry, we're not going to send you home. We're just going to put you deep focus. And I'm like, oh, just thank you. And then they were like, why are you smiling? Like I got to talk to Tim Roth, and you thought it was fucking cool that I got on the set somehow. And he's like, they're like, yeah, how did you get on the set? I'm like, you called me. And they were like, right. So that was the craziest.
That's so funny. Oh my God. I love that show too. It's so good. But I love that they were like, how did you get here?
I'm like, you called me.
I also tried to tell you.
Headshot. I don't look like someone else should have this. And they're like, no, you're the guy. I'm like, I'm what, deep focus, man? That's my superpower.
I know. It's so funny because I work in casting now. We sometimes cast actors, but it's mainly like real people. But it's so funny being on that side of it now because I'm a little bit more sympathetic and I have like the understanding of how crazy it is to cast a project so quickly and have.
Oh, and it's got to be so annoying for you on that side of it if somebody changes their look completely because they finish a gig, and then 3 or 4 days later they get called for something else, and they're like, I don't look like a biker guy anymore. Like, I have a day job and I was on vacation for 2 weeks. I grew I grew the beard out for the gig, and then I shaved it off like that Saturday, and they're like, why? And they're like, dude, I work.
Exactly. And I know, and that's like another thing too, like that people don't understand about acting. It's like if you want to get a haircut, you then need new headshots and it's like, it's a lot.
It's like, and it's sad but true. It's like you have to almost have like a handler and have just somebody that you have to have that friend that's just like, did you call them? Like, what? Did you send them new headshots? Did you send them like at least online? Did you like
update?
Oh, I should probably do that. And then the phone rings and you're like, fuck.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
So tell me, we'll segue out of that and tell me how you got involved into, because I'm curious about this, because this is something I do too, with screenwriting.
Yeah. So.
And I will take a long drink. Go ahead.
Yeah. It all started with release, honestly. So that was also kind of a therapeutic way for me to write out that relationship. And that's where I really enjoyed sharing my stories. And then also I've learned from many other actors, like Mindy Kaling always comes to mind because she has a body type that Hollywood doesn't like. So she decided to just write her own stuff, like the Mindy Project, and write her own and Never Have I Ever, and share her story about her life growing up. And that's, I kind of was fed up with Hollywood telling me to change how I look. And
Oh, you really got that when you came to town?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's so crazy because it's like, and I'm not sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's
no,
like you haven't been, it doesn't sound like in town that long. So obviously, duh, there's a double standard. It's still
yeah,
going on and everything. But I don't think it's nearly as bad as it was 10 or 20 years ago. Like you've got people like Lena Dunham
hmm,
where it's like, I don't think there's still, I mean, there's still kind of the Barbie doll thing, but
yeah,
not really. I mean, more of like making fun of that now. And even people that
right,
do look like that, like
hmm,
your Margot Robbie's and your Charlize Theron, they don't want to do those projects.
exactly,
They want to do
yeah,
more action hero or horror movie or
hmm,
mystery or thriller because I want to be an actor. I don't want to be just a
yeah,
model, you know?
yeah. And Margot Robbie did that flawlessly. That like transition from starting off as like the beauty to then Suicide
Well, it
Squad to
helps if
then
you're in a Martin Scorsese movie.
true, true. That is
And
true.
you're
That does
acting
help.
opposite DiCaprio. That
Yep.
you're in at that point, you know.
Exactly. And I think it also just stemmed from, I've only heard it like a couple times since I moved here, but definitely when I started trying to act at, 16, 17, I heard it a lot. And I was like, okay, let me just write stuff that I could see myself or my friends who Hollywood doesn't necessarily see as the standard, and showcase our talent. And it's great. I started writing a pilot a few months ago that I hope to get out there soon. But
Awesome.
as you know, it's a it's a process.
It is. It is. And we've got a few minutes left here, so I kind of wanted to touch base on the simple fact that we are both in the same movie. We are both
Yes.
in, well, you are acting in, and I wrote a segment of Body Count. So I wanted to
Yeah.
hear about your experience on Let Them Eat Cake because I've
Yep.
interviewed Jen and I've interviewed Charles, so I'm kind
Mhm.
of curious to see like you just as the actor coming into that project.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Um, I have had wanted to work with Jen and Charles since I met them almost a year ago, probably to the day. I met them like in October when I moved here. And I was so honored when they asked me to be a part of it. And then when I read the script, it's so good. And Charles wrote Let Them Eat Cake, that segment. And the process was just so much fun. My friend Hunter directed it. So that was really cool too, because I hadn't really been able to work with him yet as a director. And yeah, it was probably one of the most, I don't want to say anything that would give it away, but like first time ever like physical acting I've ever had to do.
Oh, you like
Um,
blocking wise?
um, kind of, or throwing my body to the floor. You know, a lot of like physical stuff, crawling and like all that stuff.
It's
And I hadn't
awesome.
really, yeah, I hadn't had to do that before. And I hadn't been working out in a while. So I definitely felt it the next few days.
Yeah, well, yeah. That just you're not the only one. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was just so much fun. And it was really cool to take the character that Charles wrote and, you know, try to create kind of who I think she is and the dynamic with the other actors in the scene. And, Jen is just so good, at
She's
what
such
she
a
does.
go-getter.
She is.
When I interviewed her, I mean, I've said this many times, but when I interviewed her last year on the podcast, I was like, I want to work with her because I can just
Hmm.
tell that she's a go-getter. And it's like, they've been working on, body count for months and months. And it's like, ne- I wouldn't say there's never been a break, but like when she's promoting or doing a GoFundMe because it'll be on like Instagram and Facebook like every day, and she just
Yep.
keeps it going because she doesn't give up, which is awesome.
No. Yeah. And I admire her so much when like she just told me everything that she's done and created. I was like, I need to pick your brain. I need to work
Oh
with you, but I
yeah,
also
yeah.
want to
She's
like,
definitely somebody you want to like cozy
yeah,
up to and be like,
yeah,
tell me your secrets. How do you make it work?
exactly. I don't know how she does it.
Yeah.
She's always working on something.
Well, tell me what's next for Bridget. What are you working on now? What do you got coming up?
Yeah. So mainly I'm working on that pilot that I started a few months ago. I really am passionate about it. Getting that kind of off the ground and talking to people who I kind of wrote it for some of my friends to be a part of. So seeing if they can do it. and just getting advice. It's kind of about like the comedy world. I have friends who are comedians, so I'm always picking their brain for some advice on that topic too. And then yeah, just auditioning. I did audition for an A24 pilot a few weeks ago, so I love that company. So fingers crossed. But yeah, that's mainly what's on the horizon for now, which is exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to see if we can plug some of your stuff. So, is there some stuff that's out that people can check out? I don't know if it's like on YouTube maybe, or other things that people can see your work.
Yeah, I have a lot of the shorts that I've done on YouTube. Release is definitely the one that I'm really proud of and put a lot of hard work into. And I want to kind of continue that story and maybe like make it a little bit more than 3 minutes. But yeah, I think supporting that one would be really nice to do. And yeah, just some fun other like horror shorts that I've made over the years are on just like my YouTube, just Bridget McGuinness.
I
Yeah.
don't know what kind of person this makes me sound like, but when I watched Release, all I could think of is like it was so captivating because it was so natural, like you were talking about it being mostly improvisational.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible, but like I wanted to see what happened before to the point
Yeah.
where it's like with those characters where it's like she's clearly being like verbally abused and being told she's nothing and being pushed down.
Hmm.
But I want to see like does this guy is he like an alcoholic or is he like high functioning where he realizes every once in a while he's fucked up to the point where
Hmm.
he's like, oh well, yeah, so anyway baby, what I really meant was got
Hmm.
your roses, because there's always that apology that kind of it's that vicious cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's if I didn't have just a short amount of time, I would have added so much more to the story. So that's definitely a goal for me
But I mean,
for
as it
that.
is, it's great. So
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really glad with how it turned out for sure.
awesome. Well, let
Yeah.
me know. You can let people know. Do you have a website or anything like that where people can contact you about projects or?
Yeah. Well, Instagram is obviously a big one for me. It's just at Bridget Mary M. And then my website is bridgetmmcguinness.com. And McGuinness, it's MC and then Guinness, like the beer or the book. So with the spelling, it's kind of difficult. But yeah, that's you can check out, yeah, a lot of the stuff there and even the stuff that I cast too. So
Very cool. And
yeah.
I guess we'll leave with this question, which is so you've done the hardcore drama with
Mhm.
Release and you've done horror with Let Them Eat Cake. Is there another genre that you haven't tackled that you want to or try out?
Yeah, I really want to do comedy. I love it. And even Hunter said that some of the scenes in Let Them Eat Cake, I've added a little like he was laughing at a few things in the edit. So I was like, okay, like I next thing I need to do is comedy because I love it. I love making people laugh.
Well, I mean, I can
So
already tell from right here that you have great timing. So
oh thank you. Yeah, I tried. It's something that I haven't really done a lot of. I've done like mainly done dramatic work. And then now horror since moving here, which has been so much fun. Uh, so yeah. Oh, another actually horror thing that I did that I can plug that I just remembered, which is embarrassing. There's a movie called Dawn that's on Amazon. I
DAWN or
yes, and I just have a really small part in the beginning, but it's a really fun horror movie based on Uber drivers and the horror that can
well, that's what they say
that
about
can
horror
ensue.
films, though, like independent horror. Like you either want to be the big, flashy first kill at the beginning, and
Hmm.
if you can't be the final girl, right, that
Yes,
lives all the way
exactly.
through the end. But if you can't do that, I mean, think about the first Scream. People still remember Drew Barrymore in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
It's so funny you say that because when I watched it with my family, they're like, "You're like the Drew Barrymore," and I was like, "Thank you." Yeah, exactly. I'm like, "This is it."
Well, it's been so great talking to you,
Yes,
and
thank
I'm wishing
you.
you nothing but the best. I think you're
Thank
gonna
you
kick
too.
ass and do really well.
Thank you. All the support is amazing, and this was so much fun. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Bye now.
Bye.